Welcome to Reeves Rants, the voice of the working class. I got a good video for you today. I saved this video for almost a year now. This and another one just like it. That I knew would come back to show that the Democrat Party does not change its way of doing things. Its political strategy is to criticize their opponents, denigrate their opponents, make their opponents a villain, villainize their opponents, and never actually talk about the issues. And the reason why they do that is because usually the Democrats are on the wrong side of what Americans want for the issues. So the Democrat Party has found a way of continuing to get elected and continuing to send our country in a bad direction slowly. Just one cut, death by 1,000 cuts, as they say, because they don't realize that the actions they're putting forth are for their benefit of election and not for the benefit of the American people. Anytime someone comes and tells you they're going to give you something for nothing, normally we're taught that that's too good to be true and you should question that. But not if our politicians do that, which is interesting. So this video shows how pompous this guy is and how he can't possibly understand that the Democrat policies and the Democrat way of getting elected is what's now pissed off the American people. And this is a perfect example in this video of this woman, Batya, calling out the media to their faces, and they still, almost a year later, have not changed their stripes. These elections in November of this year, 2022, will be devastating to the Democrat Party. Some of the most devastating elections that they will ever see in history will come in 2022. Because the American people are tired of being lied to, and the connections are being made between the Democrat media and the reality of the effects of actually electing Democrat liberals. So with all that being said, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that yet. Because I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, and I really need your help, and I can't do it without you. So let's roll into it.
The media's response to Youngkin's victory is literally the reason that he won, right?
Glenn Youngkin ran a campaign largely devoid of any substance, at least on policy issues. But what he zeroed in on was social issues. What he wanted was to tap into white parents' fear that their children would learn something, anything, that would upset their feelings, especially those concerning race, gender, or equality. It was a nasty yet predictable strategy, and it worked. Some white parents fell right in line, just enough of them in just the right places to swing the election.
How did they respond?
There's 100 medias, 100 reactions. You're pretty overly generalizing, I think.
Right there, that short little clip is a perfect example of how disconnected the liberal media is from reality. They can't even self-reflect to realize that the American people are not happy with constantly, for 8-10 years now, being constantly called racist. That's what's happened. Ever since we elected Barack Obama, America's somehow become more racist. And it was because the Democrats used the philosophy of, if you oppose Barack Obama and any crazy idea that Barack Obama has, then that means that you oppose black. That was what the media created as the narrative then, and they've continued to kind of push this narrative since then, is anything that doesn't agree with Democrats is racist.
As journalists ascended to the ranks of the elites, they abandoned the working class that they used to belong to. And I argue that today they're using a moral panic about race to distract from the ways in which they have benefited from income inequality in America. It's not about politics, that's a mirage. The divide in America is about class.
And we've seen the media so disconnected in continuing to sell America's racism. Well, America's tired of hearing about being racist for all this time. Because after 10 years, at a certain point, wouldn't we have gotten a little bit better about it? I mean, you got to figure, we've been hearing about it since Barack Obama was the president. America was racist. So that's at least 10 years. So in that 10-year span, since Barack Obama and Donald Trump, and now, we would have had children who were born and are now at least 10 years old. We would have had children who were 10 are now 20 years old. People who were 20 would now be 30 years old, and so on and so forth. So to claim that America's still just as racist, if not worse, from 10 years ago when we elected our first black president in US history, and we've gotten worse in 10 years, just doesn't even make sense. Just doesn't even make sense based on evolutionary birth.
Let me get more specific for you, okay? But what happened right after the election was you saw host after host after host on MSNBC saying, oh, this is a victory for white supremacy, right? White supremacy wins again. Racism wins again.
If you are a racist and you're looking for a political party, this is the obvious choice.
This is the mousetrap, at least.
Republican Glenn Youngkin's closing message to Virginia voters has almost singularly focused on weaponizing race.
Well, let's be clear. Some of it was dog whistle.
Yeah.
Right? Some of it was dog whistle racism.
1000%.
When, you know, the lieutenant governor that Youngkin won with will be the first black woman to hold that job. When Glenn Youngkin managed to flip majority black districts.
Here you go. Here is the lieutenant governor result for for Virginia. And I think it jumps right out at you. Again, this is the lieutenant governor result. This is the governor result they're tracking almost perfectly here. This is one of those things you see in politics. A rising tide can lift all boats.
This is why the racism narrative is such a joke, is because here's Glenn Youngkin with Winsome Sears, the first black lieutenant governor elected in Virginia, and you have the media saying a win for white supremacy, a win for racism. This is how disconnected our media is, and how much our media is willing to lie to us for their belief systems, as opposed to the purpose of the media, which is to tell us the truth. At this point, we have a media who is voluntarily giving up the truth in favor of lies to support the people that they want to support, and not caring one bit about the truth. Winsome Sears is the first black woman to get elected in that position in Virginia ever. And you don't hear the media talk about that at all.
What do you think the purpose is?
We have this deep class divide in America that separates the people who are really feeling, you know, the inflation at the gas pump from the people who live in, you know, coastal cities who maybe don't drive, maybe they take Ubers,
Yes.
maybe they take the subway. And the history of journalism in the 20th century in America is the history of a class of people moving from one of those classes to the other, right? Journalism used to be a working class trade, and throughout the 20th century, journalists became part of the American elites. And as they did so, they abandoned the working class of all races. And what we're seeing now with woke media is just the latest stage of that abandonment.
And that's where you're starting to see a lot of this disconnect, is the media is now part of a different group of people. They are now no longer part of the working class, but they're the ones informing us of what's going on, giving us their opinions on how we should live our lives, not telling us information that they don't think is important, or telling us more information about things that they think are important that aren't important.
67% say journalists are purposely is the word, trying to mislead people by saying things they know to be false. So it's not just we don't trust you, it's we believe you're actively making things up. Pew polled 11,000 journalists, and what they found was this, that 55% do not believe that every side deserves equal coverage. They said it outright. It was 12,000 journalists who were polled.
It's become that the media lives in a different world than the rest of us working class, and so their views on life are not the same as ours. But their refusal to accept these things and see outside of themselves is creating the biggest problems. Because it's a life, we are being sold a life through the eyes of media personalities who make millions, who live lifestyles that none of us will ever see. So how could they possibly have a proper opinion about the way the world actually works? They don't know the truth. They only have their jobs because they believe the narrative. They believe what they're told to believe. If they didn't believe that, they wouldn't be there.
But that's a perversion of the core mission of journalism. We always heard when I was 30 years ago when I started, you know, it's to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted, to hold the powerful to account, you know what I mean? Be the eyes and ears of your readers and viewers. Like, it does seem like they're a Praetorian Guard for the billionaire class. I'm sorry to overstate it, but it feels that way.
That's exactly what it feels like to the average person, is that they're there to protect the wealthy, the business owners, the politicians. They're definitely not here looking out for the American people and what's best for America. They have become the wealthy. So of course they're protecting themselves to make sure they stay wealthy. And they believe it is through these policies and these ways of doing things is how they got there. Instead of realizing that it's outright capitalism and free enterprise and the American dream that has allowed these people to become the liars that they are.
Yeah, you really see a lot of class solidarity right now among liberal elites. And I'm saying this as a lefty, Tucker. I'm coming at this from the left and feeling like, how did we abandon the working class, again, of all races? How did we become the side that comforts the comfortable and afflicts the afflicted?
The left has always been against the working class. That was the false narrative that people didn't know, was that the Democrat Party was Jim Crow. The Democrat Party were the segregationists. The Democrat Party was the Confederacy. The Democrat Party was the South, the loyalists to the King of England, the opponents to the founding of America. It was the Republicans who freed the slaves. It was the Republicans who were the abolitionists. And right there shows you the lack of understanding of history, even from someone as smart as herself, to think that somehow the liberal left Democrat Party has ever been for the working class. They have always been for the plantation owners, for the business owners, for the higher upper class. They have always been that. They opposed America becoming independent. That is the history. And we need to know these things, because for anybody to ever think that the Democrat Party was on the side of the working class is to not understand the history of America and understand the history of these two parties.
So where does this go? I mean, we need a working media. We need a media people trust. It's an essential ingredient in democracy. I think everyone agrees with that. No one trusts the media anymore. So what's the next phase in this evolution, do you think?
Honestly, Tucker, I think that every American has to relearn the work of learning to respect people that we disagree with. You're seeing a huge consumer boycott of mainstream media, of corporate media, and I think that's a good thing. They need to relearn how to get our trust back, and in the meantime, we need to start stitching back together the fabric of American society by respecting people we disagree with. That's all we can do.
I could not have put it as well as you just did. I appreciate your coming on tonight. Batya Sargon, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
Like I said, I saved that video for a year because I knew it would come back up, and I knew that the Democrat Party and the media specifically would not change the narrative and the message that they've continued to tell ever since Barack Obama was the president, and that is that anyone who opposes the Democrat Party is racist. It has stayed the weak argument of weak-minded people who can't possibly believe that issues in America actually matter to the voters, and that there are reasons why people believe the things they believe that may have to do with economic policies that have nothing to do with race. But when you're continuing to use race as your excuse, then you give no validity at what could be causing the actual problems that we have. Instead, you dismiss the problems we have by giving them easy answers, which aren't the answers. With all that being said, trying to get to 100 subscribers. I need you guys' help. I need you to hit that like, comment, subscribe, share, all that different jazz. Thanks for watching. Later.